Hello and welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis with me, James, and him over there, Matt. This week we are delighted to be joined by Jay and Eli from Super Bracket Bros. They'll be on the show giving their opinions on news that's happened in the past week, a lot of stuff regarding the Disney 2023 Expo, and also obviously we'll be talking about their channel and the fact that we've been guests on it. We had a great time and we can't wait for them to tell you where the idea came from, and so forth. We've also got a returning segment for season 11, question marks back. So we'll be getting all of our opinions on that as well. But before we get into that, Matt, where can the listeners and viewers find us?
Well, if you want to feel as good as you do on a Tuesday at 9 o'clock and just keep that buzz going all week long until the next episode, you can join us on Instagram, you can join us on Facebook, you can join us on Twitter, but more importantly, you can listen to us on Amazon, on Apple, on Deezer, on Spotify, on pretty much any streaming platform. Also, it's worth noting you can actually watch us on Spotify as well, because the feature's now been added. So you can check us out visually as well as orally on there.
But before we get into that, let's just watch this.
Hello and welcome to This Week in Metropolis.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis. And for the viewers that are with us live right now, all two of you, we are joined. I'm so grateful that you guys have joined us. We know the time difference doesn't make it easy on 9 p.m. UK time. But Jay Davis and Eli Stokes, you're both with us. Super Bracket Bros, welcome to This Week in Metropolis.
Oh, thank you so much, gentlemen. It has been I'm so excited to be on. We loved having you guys on our show, and so it's about time that we pay the favor back and come on and share the love a little bit. But for those listening, my name is Jay, and I'm joined by my co-host Eli.
Yeah, this is super exciting. It's fun to be in a live environment as opposed to pre-recorded where we get rid of our mistakes. So this will be exciting.
Exciting is one way to put it. Terrifying is another. Yeah,
literally anything can happen, isn't that right, Matt?
And that makes it more exciting. Can I just say, and this is going to be topical and controversial at the same time, but I've thought of this earlier. Now we can now officially say that This Week in Metropolis is the Queen's favourite podcast. Because it can't necessarily be disputed now, can it? There's no telling.
Matt, is that too soon? Is this too soon, Matt? God.
I was so nervous.
Bring a bit of spice to the episode.
The entire time this week, I was saying I can't mention the Queen. I can't say anything about the Queen. I can't make any jokes. And you guys come out firing.
I think,
as you can tell, I'm a devout royalist.
Ouch.
Anyway,
indeed. Listen, I want to first introduce you guys and your show, because when I first, we got introduced to each other from Geek Ketchup. Our good friends Carl and Chris from there. Sadly, they're not doing their show anymore, but it's the connections that we've made that have introduced us to people like you. And we've had the pleasure of being on your show twice now. And in a nutshell, each season you've picked 32 fictional characters and put them in battles between them in a bracket scenario that moves on. And prior to this, before you guys joined this evening, me and Matt were having a little bit of a catch up. And Matt was saying to me, what is the whole bracket thing? I don't understand. I was like, how can you not understand this? This is quite obvious. Like
that was genuinely going to be a question, because I just took it for granted that was the name of the show, but I never understood the connection. Yeah. Maybe it's just me.
It is in tournament format. This is what it takes me back. And this was going to be one of my questions to you, is like, are you guys wrestling fans or anything like that? Because it makes me think of King of the Ring and them sort of things from growing up, when, you'd have the wrestlers in them brackets and they'd work their way into a final battle.
See, if I was a wrestling fan, that would be my favorite thing. I guarantee it. But at least my particular love of brackets comes from March Madness, from college basketball. Every single year, like the 64, 68 team bracket has always been my favorite thing in the world. But the best, to me, it's the best sporting event there is. Like bringing in that many teams, anybody has a chance to win it all. I love that feeling and I love that vibe, and that's definitely part of what we try to bring into our show. And so brackets plus Super Smash Bros, because we don't talk sports, we talk fictional characters and bring them in from different universes, and so thus is born Super Bracket Bros.
Amazing. And you guys, I'm looking back, you started November 2019, so around about the same sort of time as Matt and I started this show. And you're now on your 4th season, is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Number 4. Yep.
4th season. Yep. Some personal favorites for me. The first episode I ever listened to of yours was Hercules versus Maui from season 2. And that was when I think it was Carl at the time said from Geek Ketchup, he said, you got to check these guys out, you should try and get on their show, blah blah. And he said he mentioned us to you guys. That one for me, I love. At that particular time, Moana was the film that my kids watched on repeat daily, and Maui's just one of the greatest characters ever made. So that one stood out to me. And then obviously the other 2 favorites of mine are that just happen to be the ones that me and Matt have been on. There are many more, just to point out, but we were very lucky to be, first of all, I think it was Daredevil versus Ivor from Assassin's Creed in season 3, and most recently we had Bond versus Faith from Mirror's Edge, which we were in for season 4. And again, it's not just the dream matchups that you create. There's so many different layers to it, because then you start adding kind of where the fight's taking place. So how do you, is that something you've done well in advance and picked multiple different places that you're going to tick off the list? Or because I think what was our one for, I'm trying to think, Altered Carbon, wasn't it, for Bond versus?
It's the most recent one, yeah.
Yeah. Went to the Altered Carbon universe, which, by the way, once again, I'll plug the show. I'll plug the first season of the show. Go watch the first season. Don't watch the second season. Right? Anthony Mackie doesn't do anything in the second season. Don't worry about it. Regardless, that's kind of what's become. Eli, you can counteract me here, but it's kind of become one of the biggest selling points of our show, I think, is the random location generator.
It's so fun.
Right?
Yeah, if Jay has a master list of locations that goes, it's the most disparate thing I've ever seen. It goes from movies, TV, books, just real life locations. That's always the most fun, is the real life locations, because then it's fun because we don't get to riff on, we're not just riffing on the properties that the 2 characters are coming from. We get to bring in this third tertiary thing to make fun of too. So that's sort of what the whole show, I think that it's the part of the fun of the show, is just all these fun mashups, not just with the characters, but with all the references and locations and things like that. So
it makes it less predictable. That's what I think, because you could look at some of the matchups and go, well, that person's easily going to win. Oh, we'll now throw in zero gravity in the middle of the room, and then it completely changes the game. Me and Matt were not expecting this during that episode, but I absolutely love it. And as you mentioned earlier, Jay, the brackets work so that whoever goes through will then go on to face the winner of one of the other fights, and the battle goes down to a final battle.
In terms of,
I noticed. Sorry, go on, Matt.
So I was just going to say, a question in terms of the selection of the people. Do you find yourself, and I think, just for speaking personally, when if I was pairing people up, I think I would probably overthink it a little bit and think, oh, well, I can't place that person with that person because, like James said, that would be too easy. Or, oh, there's, a clear winner in that, or et cetera, et cetera. I know, does that ever come into the decision-making process at all?
Oh yeah. We really it's funny that you asked that, because we had an extended conversation about that, because our most recent episode, so if you're watching this, listening to this now, we did a retrospective on one of our matchups from season 1. We went back and we looked at All Might from My Hero Academia versus Poe from Kung Fu Panda, and that was during our first season. In the first season, we didn't have any listeners, obviously, because we just started, and so we handpicked all 32 fighters. We meticulously went through, and we seeded them exactly the way we wanted to get the matchups we wanted to. And then the season felt very, how would you put it, Eli? Very like non-authentic. It was very disingenuous.
Predetermined.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was definitely
Because-
power fluctuations that we didn't really take into account.
Yeah, because we were the ones, we didn't have any guests. We were the ones we seeded, and then we also decided the winners of the matchup. So it felt pretty predetermined. But now, since season 2, now that we have listeners, and in season 4, we've had a guest on every single episode. So that changes a lot. But since season 2, we've had our listeners voting to create the seeding. So we select the 32 characters, but you as the listener, you get to decide who's a 1 seed and who's an 8 seed. Who's the top seed, who's the bottom seed. So we don't decide the matchups. You guys tell us the seeds, and then we randomize the brackets, and then we go. I think, as much controlled randomness as we can interject into these matchups, I think is for the better, but still getting down to, who would win in a fight and having a good time while we get there.
And are there any regrets? Sorry, James, I keep interrupting. I was going to say, are there any regrets looking back and thinking, that character really shouldn't have won? What were we thinking? Or what was our guest thinking? They should never have decided that.
There was
if it was our show, that's fine. So please say it if it was one of ours.
No, but there was a lot of times in season 1, like off mic, Jay would say, "Man, I don't know why I'm fighting for this underdog when I know they're going to lose. But I want to see the upset." And I'm like, dude, it's your show. Like, you do what you want. So, no, the inclusion of the audience and guests have just changed so much. It's been like we said, it added some more like Jay said, sort of authenticity, authentic madness, so to speak. So we're sort of tapping into that chaotic energy of tournaments in sports.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I love that you added the kind of public vote as well to the mix as well, because if you do have a guest on, or like as we came on, you might have had a situation where you didn't come to an agreement between you all, and then it goes over to the vote, what the public vote was as well. And I think it just, like you say, there's not ever a guarantee of, well, we know who's going to win this one, because it could sway either way. But the one thing I noticed from listening, certainly from the first time we came on, but going back over some of your old episodes, was you always ask new guests who your favourite fictional character is of all time.
Our comeuppances come, Eli.
You know what? You've been asking that question for what, like 2 or 3 years, and these James and Matt are the first people to call us out on it. That's amazing.
There you go.
You're welcome.
Tables have turned. So Eli, we'll start with you.
Ha.
No, see, joke's on you, Jay. I thought about this in case someone does jump on us.
Oh
no. This is okay. So for the purposes of like the fighting kind of like action character who would fit in Super Bracket Bros, I have to go Luffy from One Piece. He's just been like my favorite. One Piece is one of my favorite pieces of media. I have the volumes on my bookshelf right now. Luffy is just so near and dear to my heart. But I think if we're talking holistically, my favorite character is actually from your guys' country. I love Wallace and Gromit. Wallace and Gromit are just such childhood favorites. Yeah. I remember watching A Grand Day Out when I was very young, and that was the first time I ever was like aware that I was being entertained, if that makes sense. It wasn't just this blind like eyes attached to TV, stimuli happening. Yeah. Like A Grand Day Out was just like, oh my god, like, are they going to get off the moon? Like the robots chasing them? And like as a kid, I just thought seeing Wallace eat cheese off the moon was the funniest thing ever. So Wallace and Gromit are very near and dear to my heart. So I think
amazing. Just quickly, you mentioned One Piece. Then there was some breaking news this week about One Piece, wasn't there? Because aren't they going to be releasing all? I wonder, is there something like 22 23 issues of the book or whatever in one book.
Oh,
I'm not
wow.
joking. There was a
Really?
picture of
Are
it.
they
Like,
really?
I haven't.
Wow.
it was huge.
It is
I-
probably that long, isn't it?
No, like, yeah, I only have probably like 20 volumes of like the hundreds. So
Only.
Yeah.
I have not. I'll have to look into that because that would be a
I
fun-
saw because one of our friends within the podcasting community and a comic book collector, it's his favorite as far as I'm aware. Chris from Off My Shelves, Matt, and I'm sure I saw a post where because he's been reviewing them and things like that. But there is going to be, and it's all in one spine as well, which is ridiculous. It is
That
huge.
doesn't sound
Amazing.
possible. Like physically, that doesn't sound possible.
It's mental. It's mental. But we digress. Jay, you've had time now.
Yeah,
All
that's
I've
it.
had
all of-
time.
2 minutes.
Yeah, no, 2 minutes is enough because I think I feel like I've said this before in a different podcast.
Oh,
but
no.
my favorite. No,
Sorry,
maybe.
lost
I
you there,
don't,
Jay.
or at least.
Sorry.
We lost you, Jay. You was
Oh,
just about
sorry.
to say it, and you was like,
I got to go with Joel from The Last of Us. And I want to be very clear that he is not my favorite character, as in I want to hang out with this person. Like I think that Joel is such a complex and such an interesting character because you play as him in the first Last of Us game and you go through this intense, incredible emotional journey and you're rooting for him the whole time, but then there are just like key moments throughout that kind of make you go, wait, that are like, am I the bad guy? Like it's very much that moment that you have, and I love that so much. And then I think that the Last of Us Part 2, while it's very much Ellie's story at that point, I think that it is a great epilogue for Joel's story, and I think that they encapsulated his character perfectly. And so yeah, Joel is, if you press me right now, I would say that Joel is probably my favorite fictional character.
Do you know what I love about
Awesome.
that? It's different as well. It's not obvious.
Mm.
I wouldn't have even
Yeah.
thought of that. And I love that game. Both of
Yeah.
them, actually. What are your thoughts while we're on that? What are your thoughts on, because they're supposed to be are they making a movie or a series of The Last of Us?
The HBO TV series. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you excited for that?
I'm really looking forward to it. I think that it has a lot of potential. I mean, Nick Offerman being in there has me excited. Pedro Pascal as Joel, like he had one line in the one trailer they released, and goddamn, he sounded like Joel from the game, and I was gobsmacked. And so I'm personally really looking forward to it. I don't know about the casting for Ellie, but we will see. So I think it has a lot of potential is what I'll say. Yeah.
Just some of the other references, and we'll move on to the other stuff in this show very shortly. But a couple of other things I wanted to point out as well. I love what you guys do at the beginning of every episode, depending on who the characters are. You always do some sort of comical gag, which Eli usually does the punchline for. And I referenced it earlier. Me and Matt was talking about it when we came on for the last one. You was talking about, and obviously because of Faith from Mirror's Edge, you was talking about you've been practicing your parkour. But even going back to the one with Daredevil versus Ivor, I'm pretty sure you mentioned that you'd done something to do with Vikings or something or other. And again, I just love.
Eli was a pillager.
I think he's wearing his hat.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is exactly it. And I just love that you guys laugh at it as well. I just think it instantly, certainly for us as guests, you just feel relaxed, and the kind of level of kind of research that you guys go into for your episodes is like far beyond what me and Matt do, and
far beyond what we've done in the entire 100 episodes.
Yeah, nearly. But yeah, credit to you guys. I think you've got an absolutely fantastic show. The concept of it, the idea, what you guys do, the content that you put out, it's top notch.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, like, and you say like we pour tons of research into it. I'm like, oh, I looked at last week's episode and I pulled up the outline 30 minutes before we started, and, get it taken care of. But I mean, granted, like it's way less research once we get into the second round of the tournament, because the first one, that's one of the, I mean, Eli, this is his favorite part of the show is, that we talk about the characters in depth, and that we want to introduce new characters to our audience as well, and get that whether it's an old favorite or potentially a new favorite. That's one of our favorite things to do on the show.
Well, yeah. So a little backstory. Shortly after we premiered the show, Jay got us to a podcasting convention down in Orlando. So it was kind of a wake up call for us to find what kind of the point of Super Bracket Bros was as a show, because we'd be talking to all these people who would be like, oh, I'm, have a podcast for stories with people who don't have voices to speak them and things. And we'd say like, oh, we just have characters fighting each other. So we kind of had to do some like introspection, be like, what is this show about? And we kind of came to the consensus that Super Bracket Bros is about sharing our love with characters. People talk about, their love for TV shows, movies, video games, but we want to focus on the characters as why we love them. So we kind of co-opted that into the original idea of just, fun fights to talk about and provide some meaning with our personal interest. And that's why we've been bringing on guests, because we want those interests kind of blending together. So the best compliment we can get from our show is like, oh, I've never heard of that, before, but you guys got me into it. That is always kind of why we do this.
Absolutely.
Nice. I think as well, like just even down to the introduction I remember Jay giving for our show, Matt, just listening back to it earlier today, the introduction you done for our show made us sound really good. I think we should snip that and have that as our intro.
I mean, please do. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like you said, like making guests comfortable, and that's what we try to do with our audience. We open with a really often the dumbest joke possible, between me and Eli, and we want people to know that this isn't.
You saw what we opened our show with. So,
we're not going to go into the stats. We're not going to get into the nitty gritty, and we want to be so far removed. We don't want to be, because there's a very toxic versus battle community out there. I've been there. I've been in there, and like it can be a scary place, and that's not us. There's a whole internet community, and we want to be a positive part of that community, and so like that's part of that. And also we want to make our guests feel welcome and make them feel awesome coming on. That's a huge part of it, because then you guys open up and you're telling stories about these characters, and it just makes the conversation so much better.
Well, I think that's something the four of us share, about being positive and things like that, and it's a great message. Just final piece on your show before we get into the next stuff. Have you ever thought, and this could be a spoiler for future seasons, have you ever thought of doing triple threats or tag matches?
Oh yeah. I will reveal, if you will, that there are at least 10 different theme seasons set in the thought tank, in the think tank.
If I could show you guys the Google Doc, there's just infinite. I mean, the idea is, it's so fertile. Like, so long as there's characters, we're never gonna run out of content. So
yeah, exactly. So like tag teams, just teams, are even triple teams, are definitely like totally on the table, and not just in the same universe, but putting together teams from different universes. We've thought about it.
One theme that I'm really interested in is we have Jay created a mentor-mentee season. So you have like kind of like the Anakin and Ahsoka, or Iroh and Zuko. So it's not just the basics like tag teams. It's like what thematically can these teams together bring? So
Nice.
Jay's a mad scientist. He's thinking about this all the time.
Amazing.
The love for brackets runs deep.
Well, I mean, we'll come back round to it, but for anyone who's watching, anyone who's listening, go and check out Super Bracket Bros. We'll give you a plug at the end so you can share where people can find you.
And all the links are in the description of this
as
video
well.
and all the other ones as well. So yeah.
Indeed. Just to say hello to some of the people that have kindly joined us so far. So Shane from Dawn of Comics is here. Hi Shane. Connie Dalton's here. Martin from Sonic's Comics. Hey Martin. Pete from Triple G is here. Pete is in the house. Go and check out Pete's show as well, everyone. He started a new one this evening as well, so go and check that out. Isla's here. Hello, Isla. And I think that's it so far. But if you are watching us live, get your comments in. If you've got any questions for any of us, just let us know. So we'll move on into what was the topic of the last.
Let's get doing the interlude.
We'll do that in a bit. We'll do that in between the next bit. But
You gotta get the stinger, Matt. You gotta get him hooked.
like that. Cut. The weekend was covered with Disney Expo 2023. There was so much revealed, and a lot of the stuff, there was stuff obviously that was revealed at the last Comic Con. I think San Diego Comic Con, they had a load of stuff revealed, but stuff from Disney, from Pixar, from Marvel, Star Wars, loads of news dropped. Jay, was there anything that kind of stood out to you in particular that you were really like, wow, I'm absolutely buzzing for this?
So I am now we didn't get a trailer. We pretty much know nothing about it except that it exists, which on its own is kind of incredible. But the Black Panther and Captain America video game that has been announced.
Yes.
I mean, both of these characters make sense for a game, but just now together, World War II, fighting Hydra, fighting Nazis,
Wow.
please tell. I want to know more. I desperately want to know. I mean, Cap is one of my, if not my favorite MCU character. So I saw that and I was super excited. So if there was one true announcement, that has to be the one that I am really hyped for. But actually, one thing that I kind of wanted to ask Eli is, did you see that our boy Ki-Hee Kwan is going to be in the new season of Loki?
In Loki? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he's going to be in season 2 of Loki. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because that's a good tie-in to my favorite thing from D23, if I can springboard off that, is Indiana Jones 5. Indiana Jones, I love. It's one of my favorite movie series. But when I heard Indiana Jones 5 was in production 20 years or so after Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I was kind of like, whatever. But if you see there's a video of Harrison Ford on stage talking about it, and he, old grumpy Harrison Ford, and he's laughing, he's smiling, he's crying,
he's excited. Yeah,
that alone has me super excited. And I wasn't aware of the cast. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is in there, John Rhys Davies, Mads Mikkelsen. That's super exciting. And the best thing of all this, aforementioned Ki-Hee Kwan. There's a picture floating around the internet of him hugging Harrison Ford, and they both look so happy. It just warmed my heart. So, all the announcements are fine, but that picture with Ki-Hee and Harrison Ford is it's the best.
I really hope so. I love the film series as well, but I remember seeing Crystal Skull and thinking,
I remember you telling me that.
It just didn't work. I saw it in the cinema and I was really excited and thinking, great. And it just didn't work. And I think for me, it didn't work because he was a very old man trying to play that young man's character. Whereas I hope in this one that they suitably place the character of Indiana Jones now, almost like Sean Connery's character, I guess, in the third one. If they sort of position him in a place where it makes sense, that'd be great. But if he's still in a leather jacket running through tunnels, it's just not going to sort of, have the appeal.
I think I trust because the director is James Mangold, who did Logan. So he's already has a track record for old men at the end of their rope movies. So,
right with old men.
And I love in that video of Harrison Ford presser, he says, "I'm not doing another one. I'm done falling down for you guys." So I'm very excited. I had negative interest before, but now I'm I'm very excited to see what happens.
How about you, Matt? What was the big one that caught your eye?
It's not necessarily a big one, but it's one that caught my eye just because it's a bit different. And it's I'm just going to check because I got getting the name right of it. Werewolf by Night.
Yeah.
Which, to me, just stood out as this, that because you've got the Indiana Jones, and then there was like Tron, and there was Willow, and all of these things that were very, very much samey, and that you knew as such or expected. It's very safe with Disney. But seeing the trailer, it's a very short trailer, and it doesn't really give much away. It looks like some weird, almost sort of like low budget horror thing. Where in the trailer, where you see like an arm thrown on the floor and things like that. It was just intriguing more than anything. I don't know whether it will work. I don't know whether it will be good, but it brought something new to the table, I guess, is for me. And I thought, oh right, that stands out a bit in everything else that was there.
For me, I would say that, I mean, there was so much, wasn't there? But for me, I would probably say it was on the Pixar side of things, because Inside Out is, I mean, having two little ones as well. Inside Out, I absolutely loved as a film, and they're doing a sequel to that. As I think Riley is the character, is the little girl. She's grown a bit older, so she's got new emotions and things like that.
It was a very deep film.
Say that again.
No, the first film I thought was a very deep film in terms of the subject matter it was covering, and it was her emotions, and that was the comical part. But actually, the reality of like in real life, her emotions was a very serious thing.
I found it really good because I could just sit the kids in front of me and go, "Now just learn." So that's what's going
James
on
poured
inside your
himself
head.
a beer. Parenting.
Dad, well, no, but you remember if you've seen the film, guys, you remember as the parents are arguing with each other, and you've got all the mums there watching the dad like in a disapproving look and things like that, and I just loved it. But there's also a new Pixar film coming out called Elemental that has kind of it nods towards that sort of style of production. I think that looks pretty cool. And then just as a nostalgia nod, Peter Pan and Wendy. I think Jude Law's going to be playing Hook. So Hook is one of my all-time favourite like kids movies growing up. I loved it.
Do we need another one though? I'm just going to put that out there. Do we need another one of those films on that story?
The answer is no across the board. For all, like, I mean, if we're being completely honest, like, just like across the board, like, I'm happy that we have a lot of this stuff, but like, I don't know, man.
Wait,
like,
Jay, are you saying you're not excited for the new Pinocchio?
No,
Exactly.
I'm not. Like,
I haven't watched that yet, but I'm quite keen to see what that's like. I mean, Tom Hanks is in it. He's Geppetto, but
but that one of the things I read in one of the comments of these sort of summaries of all the things that was announced, someone said that Disney is sort of using the Starbucks approach now with Disney Plus, in the fact that they'll continue pushing out average products that's just good enough, but it's so easily available, people will visit it. They'll watch the show and it'll be all right, and they'll think, oh, that's fine. But then another one will be available, so they'll then watch that. So there's and it's a very cynical way of looking at it, but it is looking at the volume of stuff they're putting out. But a lot of it is just that tick in the box. Oh look, like the Willow trailer. I've never seen Willow. I have no real opinion of it, but. Oh, it's Willow. Look, and there's Warwick Davis. Look, you recognise him. This is really familiar. Look, you'll enjoy this one. It's like, will I? I don't think I will. I don't want to watch it. So I just think it's a bit of a shame with a lot of those things like that. Peter Pan.
What do you guys think of kind of a lot of these live action reboots?
It usually doesn't sit well with me. The Aladdin remake was very bad. The Lion King one was perhaps the most unnecessary one. I don't think I even finished it. I'm happy for the people that got to make it and the people that did. I don't want to poo-poo anybody's praise.
That was Jon Favreau, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Who did the Lion King?
It was Jon Favreau, filled with an African American cast, that got, and it was very representational, and I love that, and like that's good, you know. And but $1 billion to see this CGI remake of an animated film, like like it wasn't a live action. Like I don't know, it just doesn't quite sit well with me. Like go see something new. Go, please.
Disney
Like,
just do it to retain the copyright, though. It's to to retain the copyright and to sort of snare that next generation of sort of Disney fans, isn't it? It's a very cynical business move to make these remakes. It's not for any reason other than we want to keep this property and we want to keep it going.
I've also seen when they release like the remakes with the Lion King, the digital sales of the original Lion King shot up. So it's hard not to be a little bit cynical about these. I just wish they would take. I don't mind if they want to remake it, but do something a little bit differently. Do new perspectives. Well, one of the great classics was it Lion King 1.5. That's kind of a remake. But they did its own thing, so I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. But
how about if they done? So obviously we all loved the original films. We had our favourites growing up, I'm sure. But if they would have done, say, they've got this prequel, haven't they, live action called Mufasa coming out, which they announced. If they would have not done the Lion King live action and then brought out a live action Mufasa, do you think that would have been okay?
For me personally, I would have been fine with that because
I agree. I think that would have been fine. I understand like you want to establish like the visual of it in the original Lion King, I suppose, before you do something like that. Obviously that capital they earned, then goes to like creating that prequel. Then again, I'm kind of excited for Hercules though. I also understand that there's an inherent like bias. Like if it's your favorite that's getting remade, you're either gonna love it or hate it. So like there's a lot of like childhood emotions that they are messing with.
The Hercules one will be interesting though, because now obviously he's in the Marvel. Are they gonna do like some sort of weird crossover between the original?
Imagine that. I've never seen Hercules, the animated thing.
Oh no! It's a treat. Danny DeVito singing his heart out, man. Oh,
that's your selling. I appreciate that.
That's working for me, if I'm honest. I'm good to check it out there.
No, from like
I know my audience.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Do you think one of the other things I have from this, and you referred to it earlier, Matt, is that there's so much revealed now in Comic Cons, and I mean this event. I don't actually recall a Disney Expo 2022, but maybe it's just because it's current and I'm now paying more attention to it. Do you think there's too much revealed now that's coming out? So almost like the next 5 to 10 years of your life are mapped out when it comes to movies. Anyone that goes.
The thing is, for me though, that is. I like the fact that you get the trailers, and I just from growing up, I've always liked a film trailer. Even when we spoke about James Bond when we was on your podcast, and I remember at the end of James Bond, because they were going along a series of books at that point, it would say James Bond returns in, and it would have the next film. And just seeing that, you think, "Whoa, I wonder what that's going to be like." And I like watching trailers from that point of view. If you're interested, and you think, "Great," but the thing. For me, some of the reveals, like Eli was saying about Indiana Jones, you don't really know anything about it apart from it's happening. Or Tron, which I love Tron, and it was just like this blue circle, basically. And is that a reveal? Is that anything?
Yeah, it's at most a reveal. It's not even a teaser. It's like saying this thing exists. We're working on it.
Yeah.
Please go out into the internet and speculate about it and build hype for us.
That's it. Market for us.
It's marketing.
YouTube videos analyzing a blue dot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But one thing I want to say to your point, James, is that you mentioned, D23 sort of mapped out the next 5 years, sort of in the age of streaming. That's kind of what you want to do. I'm sure Disney doesn't want people to buy a month, watch the show, and then not subscribe for half the year. Yep. They're like trickling down all these properties that you can't miss. So I think it's just sort of the next evolution in marketing is like, how can we get people hooked consistently at month in, month out.
Yeah, true.
Instead of like, I think the one like Disney Plus thing that comes to mind right now is She-Hulk, is coming out right now. I'm not currently subscribed to Disney Plus. You've got Andor coming out in September, and you had Obi-Wan earlier this year, and you've got Mando next year, and it's like, it's interesting to see. It's like, oh, that one's spring. It's like, oh wow, this is really kind of lining up to try to keep me hooked. For me personally, I've kind of found like it's easier just to hit unsubscribe, subscribe for 1 month out of every 6 months, binge it all, and then unsubscribe. That's been my model, personally, just also looking for money saving methods, and that's one of them. And and we'll see how that works out for Disney Plus. But I think they're just banking on people just staying subscribed, wanting that next episode. And then that's where the really cynical part of me gets to me. And it's like, well, then they're just designing their shows to get you to watch one more episode. Oh, is the next episode of She-Hulk going to be the one where Daredevil shows up? I gotta stay subscribed to find out, because people want to be part of the moment too. They want to talk about it. And so like that's like the deepest cynical part of me. It's like they're not only like marketing wise, but like they're like designing their shows like to keep people coming back. But
and if Marvel are watching or listening, he bloody better be in the next episode. I'll tell you that much.
It will be. You'll get through the entire series, and it'll be the hidden scene in the credits at the end of the last one.
Yeah,
going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look, there's Daredevil. Yeah.
In the background, jumping from one building to another.
No, he's sitting on a bench with a newspaper, and he just like.
In his full outfit.
Full regalia. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, there was some news about Daredevil in the fact that it's going to be a complete reboot when the new series comes. I think it's 18 episodes, so they're completely disregarding what happened on Netflix, and this is going to be like a reinvention of the character with the same actors.
They're totally rebooting it. I didn't even catch that. Wow, because I know like it's called Daredevil Born Again, so it was like, I wonder. But wow, that's interesting. They're totally
Charlie Cox done an interview the other day I saw, and he was saying, I think it's really good because it kind of gives us a chance to kind of change him up a bit, and because he's going to have a different suit.
But it was so successful. Why would you do it if something's that was? I don't know whether it's successful in terms of streaming numbers, but in terms of critical acclaim, it was very well received, wasn't it? So why mess with that? I don't know.
I'm sure Disney just wants to push away any Netflix influences.
Well, that is probably exactly it, isn't it?
Yeah, they probably don't. Yeah, and also it's a thematic thing, I think, as well, because I think that like you have people like getting impaled like through the head in Daredevil, like you have people's heads smashed in doors.
I was literally just thinking of that one.
Yeah, exactly. And so like you can't bring that Daredevil. I mean, you could. I totally think that you could. But unfortunately, like I think that so much is catered to the below 18 audience. Like you don't want parent. Can my kid watch this Daredevil? And so I think that's part of it, but we haven't seen the show yet, so it's totally just speculation.
And just one final thing on the Marvel front, there was the reveal for the Thunderbolts as well, which has got a few people questioning why the Winter Soldier. God, what's his name escapes me this second, but the Winter Soldier was in the lineup.
Bucky.
Bucky, that's right.
Yeah.
So interesting. We knew the Thunderbolts were on the way. It's kind of being pieced together in some of the movies and shows that have been coming out. So
it's just interesting to me analyzing how Marvel's approaching its feature films and then the series as like two different entities going on. So yeah, when I saw the Thunderbolts, I was like, that's such a motley crew of these side characters from movies. So it just, for me, it just reminded me kind of the dual approach that Marvel is going with. Before it was just movies because that's what it was based in and what they had, but now with the streaming services, kind of like the werewolf that Matt mentioned. It's just all these new forms for characters to bring in. Makes me wonder like how Guardians would have done if they were a Disney Plus show. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed.
I mean, I hope that, like, I also have hope for the Werewolf. Is it a short series? Is it a short movie? What I missed that part
I'm
of it.
not sure. I think I just read that it's a
Don't think-
Halloween special, so it could be a
Yeah.
one-off. I'm not sure.
It's a television special, is how
Okay.
it's worded.
One-off.
Premiere on October 2nd.
Yeah, so-
October 7th.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, but also there was a lot of promise. There was a lot of hype around Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was going to be a true horror film. And I didn't see it at all. Like, like this, there was the most bland, most stereotypical Marvel movie that I've probably ever seen.
Wow.
Like I did not care for it whatsoever. And so like there was a lot of hype around that being great, having the Sam Raimi spin on it, and I didn't see any of it. Like, and
It was only towards the end, I think you had little glimmers of his humor in horror. There was some little bits, but I agree.
Yeah,
it's
except
completely
they didn't have the
wasted
horror
opportunity.
to begin with. So,
No,
like,
exactly.
like it wasn't, to me, it wasn't there. And so, like, you tell me this werewolf thing, like, if there's a quip, I'm done. Like, you tell me something's going to be different, then make it different, And
Jane said in the comments it needs to be sort of almost like R-rated. I want to see, like, seeing the black and white and that. I would like to see it like a Sin City sort of. Now, where you've got it's black and white, but you've got the quite strong violence and very stark, visceral. Like the arms chopped off, and there's stuff spraying everywhere. That sort of thing.
I think it would be
fun.
cool. I think if they did like homages to classic horror, like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Nosferatu, things like that. That would be really inventive and fun. So it would be horror, but kind of in the more like sensationalized, campy style. But I think Marvel going forward really, it would behoove them to start really experimenting, because that for me that was like the best Marvel movies was like Captain America Winter Soldier. That was a spy movie, Guardians was straight sci-fi. Shang-Chi was just kung fu. So for me, the best Marvel properties are when they just pivot hard into a specific subgenre. So I really hope they go for that going forward.
Great shout. Well, Sid, as we're talking about Marvel, we might as well play our new and updated. After only 1 week, we've updated the interlude, which you can.
And this is a world exclusive as well.
Exclusive, which created a fusion between Question Mark himself and King P. Ed, it's going to stay in your minds now for the rest of.
When I was doing that, just to share some background on that piece of music, Mark sent us him doing that, and I did the track. And when I do it, you tend to listen to the same thing again and again, and I'm tweaking bits and that. And my wife came in and went, "Please, can you turn that off? I've heard enough of Mark now."
Even more reason to do it.
Yeah.
So just to sidetrack and come away from this episode slightly, next week we're going to be joined by Jason Parker Comics. He is a comic book collector. He's got his own YouTube channel. He does unboxing and reveals of comics that he's had. He's a very funny guy. He always makes me laugh when I watch his show, especially when his wife Amanda's on it, because she's hilarious and absolutely ridicules him. He's a very funny guy. So he will be joining us on next week's show. So Jay and Eli, make sure you're watching. And any of the viewers and listeners, make sure you're checking it out. And go and check out Jason's stuff as well. He's a top guy. Now, we just heard Question Mark a minute ago. Now we've got a question from Mark.
Question mark. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for having me back on. Congratulations on the new season and that ever approaching 100th episode. My question is a little bit different to usual. I saw recently that Samsung are releasing their newest Fold phone, the Fold 4, I believe. And I looked at that because I thought that was quite interesting. And then I looked that the price was between £1,700 and £2,000. So I suppose my question to you is, would you spend that money on a phone, particularly a folding phone? Do you see the point of them? Cheers.
Question mark.
Well, a very different question from Mark this week. Usually it's just what was your thoughts on She-Hulk last week? Oh, it was rubbish. Now, phones, guys. I'm a Samsung user. I left Apple. I left the dark side a long time ago because they're a money grabbing scumbags. But
Good for you.
what I mean, Matt was the one that actually told me to move away from Apple. And then when I moved and started using Android, then Matt went and joined Apple. So
I bought an iPhone. It was bad timing. It was very bad timing. But I'm back with Android now. And so my perspective on it, I use an Android phone. It's a Chinese brand called Realme. It's fantastic. I've had it for 2 years. It was probably, I want to say £250. I bought it without a contract. It works. It does everything I could possibly want. The camera quality is great. And the screen quality is great. It's got an amazing battery. Why would I want to spend any more money for a branded thing? Because it does everything just as good as anything else would. Is my frugal opinion with it. And I just think I always say when you get to a certain price point, you compare. Or I certainly do. If someone's saying, well, this phone will cost you £1,700, I'm thinking that's a high-end PC, like in terms of cost. Why would why would I spend that much money on it?
I can understand. I can understand some people. Their phone is kind of their hobby. You know, like it's much time as someone would spend on a $1,700 PC playing games. Someone could be playing on their phone. So that is way too much for mine though. I've been using the same phone probably for 5 years, and as Jake can attest,
you were stretching the limits of that.
No,
thing, man.
yeah,
like, I applaud you. Yeah,
it's constantly on charge.
Yeah, if it goes below 50% and I'm out doing stuff, it's a game. It's a dangerous game to see if it just shuts off on me or not. So, but yeah, I'm not a phone guy. For me, it's just a utility. Call, text, social media, take pictures. I don't game on it, but yeah, if somebody was hardcore gamer on their phone, they did lots of TikToks and stuff, I can understand that. But yeah, for me, it's that's not a no-go.
How about you, Jay?
Yeah, I'm in a fairly similar boat. Me and Eli, we actually both have. You still have you have a Google Pixel, right? Yeah, he has a Google Pixel 3.
Two.
Holy crap!
Just call it vintage. People refer to that as vintage.
There you go. I'm running with a Google Pixel 5A, which I'm extremely happy with. I picked it up when I switched to Google Fi, because I started working from home and I wasn't leaving, so I wasn't going off Wi-Fi. So I'm like, why am I paying so much for data? And so Google Fi is like, pay for as much data as you use, and so it's like $10 per gig, and even if I only use 0.25 of a gig, I pay $250 for my data, and there's like a base plan. So like there's no world in which I buy $2,000 phone, it just is not feasible to me. Mine, I take pictures with, I play Super Auto Pets, I bug Eli about dumb Reddit stories that I find. That's it. That is the extent of my phone use. But if you've got like a business to run through it, instead of buying a laptop, you buy a nice phone that you need to rely upon. Sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think funnily enough, I've really been eyeing up the Google Pixel 6a, which is the latest one I think out over here.
Mhm.
And I've never had a Google phone, but Samsung, I've had 2 or 3 now. And every year I get them on a contract. It's £40, let's say, a month. And over 2 or 3 years, that does start to add up when you think about it. And literally, like Mark said, there's these phones now that are like, if you want to buy them outright, nearly £2,000. And I think a Google Pixel at the moment is like 300 and something, which is still a lot of money. And I'm saying Google Pixel, and my phone started listening to me. But my point is that the excitement that I have when I read the reviews on what a new phone does, and then I turn it on, and it's the same with Apple. I had many an iPhone back in the day, and you'd get the latest one, and it might be a little bit bigger or whatever the dimensions of it are. You turn it on, it's exactly the same.
Same phone. Yeah.
It's the same with no different with Samsung or whatever. They might do an update
Or any Android phone, really. Apart from you, I know your camera may calculate something very slightly differently. It's gonna for most people, when you're sending a WhatsApp, there's not going to be much different experience, is there, for what you've got?
One thing I thought was interesting for Mark's question was he was talking about the Flip, the Samsung
Wow.
Flip phone. So I wonder if there's some premium in trying out something new that hasn't been done before. But there's also
has it got the screen on it? It's a folding screen, I think.
Is it fold like this way or like that?
The actual it's like a sort of that way. It's
like the old Motorola.
Yeah, so you can like close your phone when you're talking.
The whole,
like,
whole screen. The whole screen folds. Is the thing. It's just sort of an endless screen.
I don't know. That just sounds. I'm investing that much money in a foldable screen. I don't know how durable they are.
That's what you're paying for. That's exactly where the money's going. Is that sort of technology, isn't it? And I think with Apple, like the reason Apple were tend to be in a higher price point is when they do something in particular with the screen, because I can't remember the word, but when they manufacture them, the amount that actually break or don't work is a much higher ratio than just a bog standard screen. I think that's probably the case with the folding one. It is just the premium technology. I like the idea of a folding phone though. I think that's something that is so
you can hang
missing.
Up on
that's it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the question, Mark. It's a pleasure to have you back, and we look forward to hearing more questions from Mark throughout the season. But to wrap up episode 2 of season 11, Jay, Eli, again, thank you so much for joining us. Where can our viewers and our listeners find you guys across all platforms?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, across all any podcatcher we're going to be on, so whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you go to for podcasts, we're going to be on there. Pretty much everything. If you go to YouTube for your podcast, we're unfortunately not on there, but anywhere where you want to get just the audio, you can find us. You just look for Super Bracket Bros. My recommendation for you, if you are a new listener, I would start with an episode with a character name that you recognize. Go, and then you'll have a base, a frame to go off of going into the episode. And then from there, if we've caught your interest, you can, branch out and look for some new characters, because like me and Eli said at the beginning, that's really what we're going for, is to introduce new people to new characters. But yeah, you can find us on social media as well. We're on Facebook and Instagram right now. Instagram, you can have your voice heard on the show. You can vote on all the matchups. Facebook, at the pin post at the top of the page, if you just want to see what are the 32 characters they're talking about this season, at the pin post at the top of the page, you can see the bracket in its entirety. So if you kind of want to get a big bird's eye view before you dive in, that's a great place to start. But thank you guys for having us on. This was an absolute blast. So I had a great time. I guess maybe Eli had a bad time.
Well, you gotta call me out like that, Jay. No. Thank you guys so much.
Have you been messaging him on the other computer? So
yeah,
I'm absolutely hating this.
I'm like, Pixel 5A.
Yeah.
I have a ton of messages from Eli Nelson.
No, you're lying, because my phone died in the middle of recording.
He charged it before the show as well. Yeah.
Well, thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure. And as Matt said at the start of the show, all your links and everything to all your different where you're based will be in the description of this episode. Do, for the listeners and viewers, do go and check these guys out. The show is amazing. And again, I'd agree with what Jay said. The first episode I listened to was one with a character or two characters that I really liked. So, and it was just hearing you guys and the ideas that you come up with. I think they're incredible. So do go and check them out. Have you got a Patreon as well?
We do have a Patreon. Yep. Yeah, we have a Patreon where we are releasing unedited versions of all our episodes. So if you dive in, you're enjoying listening. In our newer season 4 episodes, we launched our Patreon, so you can hear more about that in our newer episodes. I kind of dive into kind of what you can get from that, but we also have a Patreon, and I guess the other thing is, if you don't find a character you like, just hop on This Week in Metropolis episodes. There's 2 of them, and so definitely go find those, and you'll have a great time because you'll have your best buds from this show on there. So
nice plug. See, he's so smooth with this.
He's really smooth.
Eli's here for the laughs, and Jay's there for the professionalism. Smooth. Thanks again, guys. And again, we'd love to have you on the show again. We could talk for ages with you guys. So thank you very much. Matt, we'll be back next week.
We will, with a guest, which I can't remember who it is, because you put me on the spot.
Jason Parker. There you go. Always
Jason.
prepared.
Always prepared. Yeah. I
Jay,
bring the
Eli,
professionalism as well, as you can see, to every
Indeed.
show.
Guys, if you stick around, we'll talk to you afterwards. But thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight, and we will see you all soon.
I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as we did. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future episodes.
Yeah, and you can also follow us on all social media. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok.